Welcome back, everybody, to Angelic Summit 2022. I am still your host, Stephanie Lodge, hugging you with big open wings and welcoming you to this fantastic conversation with my friend, Christine Alexandria. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I want to share a little bit about you to the audience here so they
Sure.
can get to know you. And so I also want to say really quick that I met Christine many years ago when I first came out of the spiritual closet in a bigger way. She was part of my first, what's it called? I guess panel, right? Discussion at Conscious Life Expo, right? That was a while, it seems like ages ago now.
Oh gosh, different life, right?
Really, totally different lives, different people. Okay, so Christine Alexandria is your mystical mentor. She is the founder of Angel Chatter, an award-winning author, creator of 2 Oracle card decks, and teacher of the B, big caps, U program and other ongoing programs. Christine empowers women to own their voice through the channeled messages of the angelic realm, the Magdalene, and other divine energies. She mentors women worldwide and is soon to be one of your new best friends. To learn more about her, you are invited to visit her website, angelchatter.com, which I will add into the links here shortly. And you're welcome to follow her on her various social media channels on Facebook and Instagram from there. So welcome again, and so happy to have you here and being part of the summit. I was, just so everyone knows, I wasn't aware that you were channeling Magdalene, because if I had known, I would have had you in my last summit.
I know.
We'll have you maybe in the next one. It was kind of just one of those things. It's just the ships did not, meet at port. So let's talk about, we were talking backstage a bit before we went live about what is happening right now. So much going on in the world, as we know, that kind of an inner conflict being, externalized through so many different things. And I know we're being called into duty, I would say, from the angelic side a lot more than normal. How has that been for you? And what are some of your thoughts about what we do dimensionally in those ways?
So I was starting to share with you the other night, we had some family things going on and I was annoyed, to put it mildly, with the world. And I remember crawling into bed and saying, heads are going to roll tonight, because I travel at night. And I know I had been spending a lot of time over in Ukraine. I've had various people saying they've seen me with the white garb, blessing the land of Maripol and so on. And then I took a time out, and we're going to address the whole boundary thing in a few moments. But it's not something I'm going to proclamate. Oh, guess what? I'm going to travel to, wherever tonight. I don't tell people. It's something I do. However, I had a student reach out to me the next morning and she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Fine." Why? She goes, "I was woken up in the middle of the night and I was told, because I love you so much, that I needed to go and protect you." And she goes, "And bullets were flying everywhere and you were so mad at me because you said I can handle myself, just get out of here." She goes, "Wow, what was going on?" So ever since this war specifically has happened, I have been in the Kremlin. I have been all over Ukraine. I've been in Maripol and doing what I do. And it's not something, obviously, we don't get paid for, because I know you do the same thing, Stephanie. It's not something we get paid for. It's not something we openly talk about. However, for all of you that are listening now, watching the replay, you have this beautiful thing called boundaries. We have boundaries, hopefully, with the humans in our life. We have our inner circle, our family, our partners, and then we have an outer circle, and then we have our social circle, and the circle gets bigger. You can have boundaries with Papa, God, the angels, the masters, everybody. You can say, "That's it, I'm done. I need a time out. I need to rest tonight," because if they're an ascended master, they've been here in human form. They've had to eat and sleep and poop and pee and do all these things that we still have to do as a human, no matter where you come from at the moment. But you're here as a human. The other energies forget. Please be sure, if you're tired, you take care of yourself. If you've ever traveled on a plane, flight attendant says, in case of emergency, put your mask on first before assisting another. You cannot be of service if you're depleted. Don't put yourself on a pedestal and be a martyr and, be the savior, because one, you're not going to save everybody. You're better off saving yourself first. I was very close to a complete burnout because I was working on my business and doing all these other things energetically for the last 5, 6 years. And I pulled back, which is probably why, Stephanie, you didn't know I was channeling the Magdalene, because I pulled back.
Yeah.
I did what I had to do to keep things running, but I've revisited. I'm looking at my life. It's about the balance, making sure I'm going to bed at the certain times, eating, all of these things. So it's very, very important that all of you maintain your boundaries. So let's do just a quick little step into this, because our talk is about owning your angelic gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Place your hands over your heart, just settle in. I'm not a big one that your legs have to be uncrossed. It's more important you're comfortable. Place your hands over your heart, because you're here in this lecture because you want to own your intuitive gifts more. Just breathe into it. Feel the cadence of your heart. And just listen to my voice for a moment. And say these words to yourself. I am willing to tell a different story. I am intuitive. I am willing to use my gifts not only to be of service, but to enhance my life. I am willing to listen to Papa, to the angels, to the masters. I am willing to ask them every day, what do I need to know? How can we support myself and others better? How may I be of service? How may I take care of myself better today? That little assignment is so powerful when you do it every single day. Do it before. There's actually a psychological branding. It's called habit stacking. So you wake up in the morning, you stretch, you look around, place your hands over your heart. Connect physically, consciously at that moment. What do I need to know for today? And sometimes maybe you didn't sleep as well as you thought you did, and today's going to be a slow day. Or some days you just wake up. Like today, I was sharing with Stephanie before we came on. I did something I haven't done in a long time. I made a ton of masks. I gave a ton of masks away when the lockdown happened. And then I walked away from my sewing machine. It was not bringing me joy. Today, it brought me joy. Today was a day to break some of the momentum, those habits we get into, those rote things. We check our phone constantly. That's not living consciously. It's, what do I need to know for today? And one of the things, and it's one of their beefs, the Magdalene beefs, which has now become my beef, you'll hear the term unconditional love a lot. We, again, humans, have made love conditional. So much so, we feel compelled to say unconditional love.
Mm. That's
a false. Love is love. There are no conditions for love. It's not, honey, I love you. Stephanie, I love you. Your hair's a mess.
Yeah.
I'm making it conditional. I'm saying, Stephanie, I love you. Which means I recognize the beauty within you. It's akin to namaste if you get into that. But it's, I love you. And the angels love you.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can permit, it's a big one, trust that they do love us, that they are here to help us. Guess what? The easier it gets to be, to do everything we desire.
Yeah. It's interesting because I let go of the term unconditional love a while back and just call it ultimate love, just that it's this love that goes beyond all measure anyway. So, just to kind of expand it for people. But yeah, because sometimes love, I think people are like, it's so overused, right? It's like, I love you, and they just, so we want to sometimes just be like, okay, you want to really feel what that love is, that love of the angels, then call it ultimate love, right? If you have to give it a word. But yeah, I agree with you. Love is first,
Yeah, and
always.
I challenge all of us to say, I love you, not love ya.
Yeah,
It's and be very purposeful. It's three little letters. How long does
yeah,
it take, right?
yeah.
Not long at all. And when we can do that, because one of the things I love working with my students and my clients, I remind them, you are entering the biggest love affair of your entire life. And they go, and I go, with yourself,
Yeah.
because the more you can honor you, the better your angelic gifts become. I promise you. The more you can love you, honor you. Stephanie is an amazing person. I'm an amazing person. But how we present, how we teach, how we interact with our clientele is similar. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. But yet it's vastly different. You go to the right teachers for you. And that's the most important. That's why there's so many of us. I've been saying for years, we all may want ice cream, but guess what? Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. We all want to respond to something different. There are 6 different clairs. There's clairaudience, there's clairvoyant, there's clairsentience, there's clair. Out of these 6 clairs, you have a strong one of them. You can tap into all of them. A lot of times, this one time we were living in Massachusetts, so that's a long time ago. And I was in our basement, it was the finished basement, and there's this overwhelming scent of roses. There are no roses down there. But scent isn't one of my strong clairs. It's not something I tap into on a regular basis.
Right.
So knowing that, they give me the roses. So you guys are funny. I stop and smell the roses, and it made me pull back a little bit, become more centered,
Mhm.
ask, what do I need to know? And then I can take the next steps. So it's a lot of fun. So, hearing we can all tap into, because it's either you literally hear or it's in that your head hearing. Tasting is an unusual one. I have experienced that a few times. Scent. I'm a little Miss Know-It-All. I just know stuff. That's my strong
Yeah, me too.
point. Yeah.
People don't like us know-it-alls, but you know what? It's like
No,
when
I
you're
know. I know.
cognizant, what are you
And
going to
like,
do? Am I going to lie to you? No, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you what I know. And then if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
yeah, but I've had to learn everybody's not ready to hear what I know.
I
So I'm
know.
like, so I tend to wait. But you have a question? And then I'll tell you what I know. But
Yeah,
I'm not going to go, I'm not going to be chasing you down the street. Hi, excuse me, I have things to tell
right.
you.
Of
Because
course
that's,
not.
one, is kind of rude.
Yeah.
And 2, it's just not nice because it's kind of rude. But it's that owning of the angelic gifts. But one of you can all go to Angel Chatter Academy. Just look it up. It's the free gift. I'm not sure where you've got them posted, Stephanie. I have a
The
free.
VIP got a special portal, so they're inside there. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a free class. It's all about Archangel Michael, and I always introduce everybody to him first, not to insult you if you know about him, but to reinforce the importance of you protecting yourself energetically. I mean, he's the patron saint of the police force for the United States. His gig is protection. So
That's who I started with when I went through my
right?
awakening. I
Most
mean, Michael was the
people
first one
do.
I integrated for sure, because we have to get the vessel feeling safe to do this connection to our angelic gifts. So I agree with you. It's very important.
It's very, very important. In fact, it was funny. So here's a little story. I was working on my last book, Angel Chatter, Heavenly Guidance, and there's a section, it's a chapter for each of the 15 angels. And I had a personal story to share within the book about each of those angels. And Michael is with me so much. I couldn't think of a particular story. I had stories to share, but they weren't mine specifically. So I go up, I see one of our daughters, she's having surgery. I'm visiting the other daughter. I'm driving from someplace in Pennsylvania down to Williamsburg where my parents were living. And I've got Gertrude, my GPS on. And it says turn here. I'm like, okay. And didn't look familiar, but I hadn't been to mom and dad's new home that often. I'm like, maybe I just don't remember. So I turn, and the road starts getting more narrow, and there are no more lines, which means there are no more, buffers, and the roads rather curvy, and my hands are getting a little bit grippy on the steering wheel. Like, oh, how bad can it be? Don't ask. So I'm turning, and I see in front of me another curve, and then right around the curve comes a huge truck. It's not a Mack truck, but it was so big I could not see the driver. But because I have Michael around me, I just immediately, my hand came off and blaring on the horn. The truck just pulled and just kept on going. Got to my parents' house. I'm sharing this with my mom, and it was just like one of those moments. And I share it with my publicist at the time. And she says, as soon as I read your story, she goes, Michael came in and he says, well, she wanted a story for her book. So it's one of those things. Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Be specific for what you are really wanting. Because, we all want, my gifts have grown tenfold easily over the last number of years. And I know there's much, much, much more to come. But you don't want to see it all now. I mean, I've seen, keep in mind, okay, as an example, recent times, right? I've gone to Ukraine. I will continue to go. I've seen things, and unless you're really ready and you're very grounded and super protective, do not recommend you rip that Band-Aid off the third eye. I had a student years ago, and because the course, the BU program, goes in this sequential order, starting with Michael, working from the Earth Star chakra on up. And she was, I think, on the sacral chakra, Gabriel. She says, well, can't I just skip and go to Raziel and work on my intuition? I went, oh, no. 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 And she stopped turning in homework for a bit. Well, she finally came back about the last month or so, and she's ready to work on it again. But she wants to share. Joe Fiel oversees our solar plexus, and I know it's not really showing up well on the camera, but this is her candle. She works in conjunction with Michael, and her mantra is, you are your most powerful when you're in your joy. So if you think about that, when you are in joy, everything's possible, including expanding your gifts. It's when you are forcing it, when you're chasing it. So we have a new puppy. He's about 5 months old. And as puppies go, he is fabulous. But he's still a puppy. And he loves the game of chase. Oh, look, I got a sock. Come get it. So the minute we chase him, trying to get the sock back, the sock becomes extremely elusive. So this is a metaphor. But when I sit and say, come here, Zeke, come here, bring it here, the sock then gets dropped into my lap. Right. So if you go chasing and wanting to expand your gifts versus being in that joy, allowing them to expand on their own, it's always going to be like that carrot or that rabbit at the dog tracks. It's always going to be in front of you, not obtainable. Yeah. So sit, do the work. What could I do today to improve myself? And then you get these inspirations of what you could, never should, what you could do next to help enhance your intuition. So I like games. I love games, actually. So everybody that's here right now, think of a number from 1 to 20. I have something I printed out before we started talking, and it's a game. It's no pressure.
Can we do a poll with this, or do you want me to just have them post
people can write in the chat. They can just, if they don't want to play.
Yeah, just write. Visually, so they have to select a number from.
Just play with it.
Okay. So they're posting their numbers.
I do.
So far we got 7, 11,
3, 15, 9, 17, another 15, 18, 19.
It's like it's going up. See who else wants to post. I'm going to check and see if we have any participants over on
14, 11, Okay, so my number is 13.
Oh,
So, so nobody got it, but
no,
that's
one
okay.
person did at the end, Juliana. She
Oh,
just
you
did
did, Juliana. Congratulations.
right before you
You won the
posted it.
Cupid doll, baby. But it's not for everybody that didn't get 13. It's not that you're not intuitive. Think of it as a game. Because the minute you try to think of that number, what number is she thinking about, it becomes a bit more difficult. It's a bit more elusive. So
But
now,
to relax
right.
into it is
And
also.
that's so important. Whether you want to increase your intuitive gifts, whether you want to have a romantic partner, you want more money or better help, the more you force it, the tighter you become energetically. Very, you and I talked about this a little bit prior to coming on. It's a very third dimensional sensation of forcing things to happen. So third dimension, it's that really hard stuff. It's very ego. It's very fear driven, very anger, revenge filled. It's kind of energy. How's that for technical?
Hey, we come for the food though. Don't like belittle the food. I mean, sometimes it's just about that. It's like,
And
oh,
sometimes
chocolate, you know.
there's
It's not all bad in the 3D, but you know, I get what you're saying. There's elements that are
right. So one of the things you will never hear from me, yet you have to give up coffee or chocolate because hell may freeze over if I had to give those up. But I cannot foresee ever saying you have to be a vegetarian or vegan if you want to enhance your gifts. Pizza, exactly. Cannot give up pizza. But there are certain foods, certainly, that we all know are not good for us.
right, of course.
If you have a choice between apples or a bag of M&Ms, which is going to be better? You always have a choice. It's about the energy, but there is so much chemicals and there's so much like one of my campaigns is if you consume artificial sweeteners, please stop. Yeah. It's been proven to cause cancer. It causes memory loss. And here's a little fun fact. It actually has been also proven to put on weight. So if it does those things to you physically, think of what it's going to do to you energetically. Yeah. So you are different than me. All of us that are gathered, how many people are in here? So there's 22 in the session. So all 24 of us right now, our bodies are different. We're different ages. What worked for you at 20 is not going to work for you at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 and beyond. So it's always being observant on how food is affecting you. Yeah. And if it's affecting you not so well, let's go back and revisit it. And doesn't always have to be a high vibration food. The cleaner it is, the better it is, but it's how it is fueling you, which will also then help you own your gifts because you are taking care of you first. So that's Archangel Chamuel, not as well known. It's Chamuel if you're not familiar. Oversees the heart chakra along with Raphael, but Chamuel is all about the pink and, it's all about the art of self-love. So the more you can honor your gifts, the more you can honor your needs. Your boundaries become firmer. You begin to elevate to another dimension because you, instead of just inhaling food and rushing from one activity or task or errand from another, you're spending more time in that moment. You will notice your words will begin to slow down. You actually will begin to articulate more clearly. And you notice so many things that are out there. I mean, we are very blessed where we live now. I can walk a mile and I'm at the James River. We live in Williamsburg. Zeke and I were out walking yesterday, and these woods are incredibly magical. When we have private weekend clients, like we're going for a walk, right? Like, yeah, we're going for a walk. So in this one section, I had been there a couple of times, but I found myself channeling audibly. And there were two different people. One I was familiar with. She's a Native American woman. I think it's White Buffalo Woman, but I haven't really firmed up with her. But one felt a bit more masculine, and he was a little angry, and basically he was setting boundaries. Boundaries a big word today. And it was warning things. And then the next one was about the next energy that came in was very, very much about blessings. And as Zeke and I left this path,
Mhm.
um, saw a maintenance guy and he says, "Hey, did you see the copperhead?" And I said, "No, where?" 20 yards back, right at the intersection, which is where we just were. And I said, "Didn't see it." But because I was in that flow, very fifth dimension and beyond, allowing these energies to channel through me, we were protected, my little puppy and I, and blessed the land at the same time. And the snake left us alone.
Right.
So,
Really quick, I want to ask you on the Native American side of things. A
mhm,
couple of weeks ago, I was clearing a template of the Cherokee, you know, the Trail of Tears and everything.
mhm.
That genocide, we were clearing some genocide templates, but I think were the Cherokee down in that region at all? Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what I was
Yeah,
getting. Because they showed up right when you said that. I was like, "Hi!" I looked off
yeah,
camera. I don't know if
yeah.
people.
I did some research when I first started channeling this woman, which I'm pretty sure it's white buffalo, but I
Mhm.
haven't confirmed, so I'm not going to say it is indeed her because it's in their native language. I've sent it to our aromatherapist who is Native American and has one of her employees, as she says, is old as dirt and she knows so much stuff. And even that woman goes, "That's old language." She goes, "I'm not even familiar with it." She goes, "It's real, but
Yeah.
that's like beyond what they would use now." So when doing some research, I was actually quite surprised on how many different tribes came through this entire area. There's quite a few. Yeah, so Cherokee were definitely here. I'm just reading some of the comments. Sometimes I feel like I'm in two dimensions. Oh, honey, we need to talk. Just saw this comment, and yes, I feel this often strongly and a lot more lately. So my food and it's always that's wonderful. Yeah, when we live in the two dimensions, so third dimension, like we talked, is that very heavy stuff. Um, there are still people there. We can look around, watch the news. Very, very third dimensional thinking. Fourth dimension, this is where it starts getting fun. People become more spiritually aware and more religious. Then they get this air of superiority. They become like a spiritual snob that I know better. You must listen to me. They're still pretty heavy. They get very deep into conspiracy theories, which we're not going to discuss today, but that's very fourth dimensional thinking. Then you
Yeah.
get into the fifth and beyond, and it just becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. So you then get to that level of love is love, as we've been talking about. Boundaries are clearer. You know, one of my screensavers for me is I will not allow another to define me. You know, I was sharing this in a blog post last week. I've had coaches that said, "Oh, you can be a money coach, you can be a relationship coach," to the point that they were so convincing. I'm like, "Well, maybe I ought to be." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you know, that's not me."
Mhm.
We address all of those and more when we work together with my mentees, but
You
that's
do
not
it from
who
the
I
angel
am.
angle, as I call
Exactly,
it.
exactly. So, so it is about connecting to the divine, whether it's the angelic realm or Mary Magdalene or Papa or other masters, Zadkiel or Kuan Yin and Mother Mary, and all of those things. So you have these beautiful energies. And when we can get into that higher elevations and we become childlike, not childish, childlike, where the world is full of wonder, we can see and appreciate the nuances truly in one flower. That's the beginning of owning your angelic gifts. I'm reading some of your notes. So thank you. Oh, you're so welcome for relating. So when you want to own your gifts, you're going to talk with Michael, right? But you're also going to talk a lot to Uriel. He oversees the root chakra. It's that place of safety. And when you talk about Michael and Uriel together, protection is one thing. I'm going to protect you, stand back. Safety is similar, but it's not the same when you're talking about these two. Specifically, Uriel's mantra is, "You are safe to be you." You are safe to be tuned in to the angelic realm. You are safe to dance with them. You are safe to learn more about them, to share their messages for yourself, your family, your friends, your client, whatever you're doing with it. You are safe to be you. And that's a big one. If we could, all of us could own that, I mean, truly own that, there would be no war. There would be no bigotry. There would be none of that, because everybody would be very with themselves.
Yeah. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started, that,
Mm-hmm.
in a world full of conflict, the warfare, obviously, and that's a reflection of our own inner conflict. And so we were coming together as a summit to really, really own this light, right? Guard it
Mm-hmm.
with our love, right? But this
Yeah,
is important, and also unify it for peace. But Magdalene taught me this. I'm sure she taught you this as well as the angels, that these boundaries, the reason for the boundaries is to know what your own energy is versus your energy and everything else. That yes, we're unified. Yes, we're consciously in love and knowing everybody is ultimately love. But in the same token, while we're in these human suits, these vessels, it's important to know what you own is your own energy field, and you might pick up, if you're empathic and like a sponge, other people's depression, and that's not going to serve you if you're here to bring light through you, to always have all this energy
exactly.
sticky in your system, right? So what are your thoughts about how to discern, what is one's own personal field, how to know what is your own energy versus another, and also in these times of great, conscious mayhem, a little bit going on, right? The 4D, if you will, trying to suck us into all the consciousness. What do you suggest for holding our peace? Holding our light and being those guardians of light.
So I had our dog before Zeke. Her name was Gabby. I think you
I
never
remember
met her,
that.
Stephanie, but you remember her.
Yeah.
And her name was spelled Gabi. And when people would typically spell it Gabby, I would get all bent out of shape. No, it's Gabby. And I'm like, what do I care? It's a dog, And the angels said it. No, they go, no. Gabby, Gabi, is an acronym for grace always begins inside.
Mm.
So, in answer to your question, and the Magdalene addressed that very question 2 weeks ago. So, I have a twice monthly online gathering. It's a membership that I channel her, and then I answer members' questions. And it's a lovely hour twice a month. It's crazy. And she addressed that it's that we can use, I will allow no one to define me, but it starts here. Now, my sister's has been having some health issues, and we're not twins. We're 8 years apart, but we're very much like twins. And I pick up on her energy. We're that connected. But I have to, because it's her, and I've known her obviously her whole life, being the eldest, that I know it's mine versus hers. However, when it's a perfect stranger or it's a worldwide event, because, we just had an eclipse, there's a war going on, there could have been yet another shooting someplace else. Where's this coming from? Why, if you find yourself going, why do I feel so crappy today? There's your first clue. It's not yours. It's an outside source. Where is this coming from? Where is this imbalance? You don't want to give it a strong name. Like, where is this anger? Where is this imbalance coming from? Because nothing that's not love is a lower energy. So it's an imbalance. Where is this coming from? You'll get insights. Oh, great. It's not mine. All right. What can I do to process it? And it's a Hawaiian healing technique. Many of you may have heard about it. It's Ho'oponopono. And it's, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. But notice where this imbalance is sitting within you. Is it your strange place, a left hip, your pinky? It doesn't matter where it really hits you physically, but focus on that. So using the energy of Ho'oponopono and of course Raphael, that energy of forgiveness, that art of forgiveness, and processing it. And through that, Zadkiel, angel of transmutation, oversees the crown chakra, the violet flame, along with Saint Germain, can transmute it for you. So it's not going back out and spreading more crap everywhere. You can literally be this act of service, be the light that you are by taking care of you. So you may attract it like a sponge because of your empathic gifts, but it doesn't mean you have to be the martyr and hold on to it. Because if you think about, I'm going to guess all of you have been to at least one woo-woo store in your life. A lot of them, the owners are not super healthy. It's just something I've noticed. There are some that I'm sure are, but a lot of them, they tend to be overweight and they're literally sick. They have autoimmune disorders because they're taking on so much. They're not taking care of themselves. So how was that really being of service? How are they owning their angelic gifts by being so run down?
Right.
So it's taking going, okay, it's not mine. I can do better. I can letting it go. So the Magdalene was very, very big on that. The grace always begins inside. Love begins within. And I didn't write down your other questions, Stephanie.
I have to just share this. This is so interesting. I always find it fascinating when we have similar messages coming through our speakers in just slightly different ways. And I find it funny that we all have our acronyms, right? It's like they talk acronyms, these angels, all the time. But you know, one of the things that Magdalene and Yeshua actually combined have guided me to is this idea of I only allow for, right? So it kind of goes along with what you're saying, the allowance, right? But the other thing is graceful authority, she calls it. Like this ownership of your grace, like you're in your authority with grace, right? And so it's kind of what you're talking about with the Gabby, which I love, because it's true. And to me, grace also brings us into that neutral, like 0 point a little bit, right? When we're like grace, it's like we're at the helm to now steer the ship of wherever we want to go without the storms. You know, it's like I got it, right?
Right.
You can that makes sense to me.
Yeah. You can be the eye of the hurricane. And yes, Jessica, Uriel is the root chakra. You can be the eye in that hurricane. You can be that calm and have total chaos happening all around you. But if you are right here, you're not going to actively take on that energy, which will then allow you to assist other people. So a lot of my students, actually quite a few of them, more than half, are owning their goddesspreneurs. You know, they're owning their own business. Not all. And it's when they are present, then they are able to help their clientele because you're here, you're in that moment. So you're able to listen, not only to what is being said, but how it's being said. You're not jumping ahead. That's just being present. That's that grace. That's that living in that love. Because one of the things the Magdalene, I went to France, I think I told you, Steph, about 3 years ago and traveled throughout sacred France. I saw her skull, broke me wide open, and cried, butt ugly, snot down the face, ugly, cried like crazy.
Thanks for that visual. I love Christine. She's always so grounded in her visual. Go ahead. I'm joking.
It was real. It was real, people, and it happened more than once. You know? But it was necessary because if you're empathic, you have, just by self-preservation, you have built a shell around you so you don't get hurt. You have built this protective layer around you so you're not called weird, because, you know, we all want to be liked. We all want to be a cool kid at some level. We want to have friends. We want to be able to do these things, right? So we build the shell around us. I mean, I shut down. I remember the day I was 6.5 years old, up in my bedroom with 2 friends. How do you know everything? And I went, I'm weird. Boom, done. And it wasn't until I got married to my husband and we had children who are now not children, um, that the gang said, "Are you ready yet? Can you come out and play now? Let's do this." But still having this show around me because a lot of people don't do what we do. So and when they do, they can be very ungrounded.
Yeah. The same thing
And
happened to me. I was a young girl, very sensitive, could feel everything, cried
yep,
all the time, all that. And then went through some traumas that shut everything down. And then it wasn't until I think 33,
yeah,
literally, that
yeah.
suddenly it was like, and here you go.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
what is
exactly. And
happening?
that's kind of when it started happening with me. And at the time, 33 for me was a while ago.
Me too.
Reading little stories here and there, kind of tiptoeing into it, and I call them the Dano years because I got certified in master teacher Reiki, master teacher integrated energy therapy, magnified healing, licensed crystal therapist, archangel enlightenment therapist, and there's some other stuff in there. And my husband would keep going. What are you going to do with this? I don't know. When are you going to see clients? I don't know. When are you going to start teaching? I don't know. So I called it these the Dano years because it took a while for me for this barrier to break down so I could share more of myself. And it's lovely. The wall continues to crumble down. More of me is coming out. More of me is coming out because it's time to share this ancient wisdom, but in a contemporary way so it can be
Mm,
utilized and implemented in 2022
mm,
and going forward. So we'll address, we do address food. You're absolutely right. Um, and I got called a weird chick. I'll tell you about that story if we have time too. But we have these barriers, but the more we feel comfortable and we own, I am safe to be me. Michael is protecting me. I'm tapping into this wide, wide platform of tools, thanks to the gang, as I call the angelic realm, to help me navigate every single day. The gifts keep getting stronger and stronger and
mm.
stronger.
Well, this is one thing I want to share about that because it's something that happened to me, and I'm guessing you're probably in the same stream, because most of the people in my summits are in my stream or very adjacent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I got from my entourage, we call it the gang, I call it the entourage, is that the there was almost like there were certain waves that went through first,
Mm-hmm.
and they had enough stuff that was still getting, let's say, integrated on the ego level. We'll call
Mm-hmm.
some of them spiritual narcissistic, right? And I'm not
Yep.
saying there aren't still some out there, but it was almost like those that got out there that were really super popular, let's say in the last decade or two, it was almost like they were taking the hits, and they
Yes.
were shadow approved sometimes because they were willing to compromise certain levels of integrity in order to get the money or to get the fame or to get the glory or whatever you want to call that. But then they also got some karma, and that was just their role. And I don't mean everybody, but there was a group of them.
There's a huge contingent. I've talked
Yeah.
about this actually years ago, and you're absolutely right. They took a hit. They are, so if you're familiar with Indigo Children, Stephanie, I know you are. So they came in the 80s en masse, and I call them the system busters. They're here to
Mhm.
break down the system,
Yeah.
show a new way. There are other ways to do the same things. Many more private schools have become available since I was a child, and this is one of the results.
Yeah.
So
And
they opened the door, right?
yeah,
And
they
then
opened the door, but we were under protection. It's almost like my angels
yes,
were like, you're an asset that we can't afford to lose, so we're going to keep you underground or like under wraps for a while. And so I just relate to you, and I'm just getting chills on that, but I
right.
relate to you because now is our time to come out. Like the architects, the builders of creation, like that work through us, and what we know and what we've been acquiring as our wisdom is now like, and here we go. Like that's what I really feel now,
Exactly.
right?
And here we go.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the lockdown actually gave us, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't great by any means, but it was that big moment to reflect and not just check your belly button for Lent, but really think about what you wish to do with your life. And many people took advantage of it. Many people had crying jacks. Many people made too much ice cream. But, we all had our sources of what we chose to do. But at the bottom line, coming out of it, many more are much stronger. So, all of those teachers and authors you referenced a few moments ago, they're at that time, they're physically tired.
Yeah.
Some will literally die.
Oh, they have. Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, there are many that have, but there's going to be like a big wave of them leaving very soon.
They were like, I'm done. I'm out. I did my job. I'm going now.
Oh, look at my time.
Party.
Right. So there is now this new wave of truly authentic teachers that have been chomping at the bit, for more than a few years going, I'm ready. Because you've been told, because you've shared some things with me, I've been told, what I'm here to do. And publicly, I'm here to inspire and empower millions of people.
Right.
So they tell me this, years ago, and I go, really, how is this going to happen? They go, all in due time. And now is the time. So it's that owning this gift. I didn't go looking for the spotlight. I grew up in a little tiny town in Delaware and was very happy, going out crabbing and having a nice life. But this is what I'm called to do. And this is for all of you, you wanting to own your angelic gifts. Is how do you think? This is really thinking about it. So write down in your journal, why do you want to enhance them? What would you like to do with them? Do you want to write books? Do you want to teach? Do you want to have, your own clientele? If you put some why answers to your desires, one, you have much greater clarity of why you want it, and then you can begin to own it even more. So we moved here in our new home, our forever finally new home, last year. And I was adamant. My husband wanted to downsize. It's only the two of us, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, we've done the small house. I need space. This is what I need. And I wasn't backing down. And we now have a beautiful and larger than he wanted initially home. But everybody that comes here, they go, oh my God, this house is perfect for you. It's because I was clear on my whys.
Right. Yeah, we have to stand up for what we require too. Angels oftentimes, in human form will be just like everybody else but me, because we're so much in service. And I know sometimes I was like you, it's like I was allergic to fame because I grew up in Hollywood and I saw what it did to people. I went, no, thank you. And I was 6'2", so it was like I got attention anyway, and I didn't even want it. It was hysterical. It was almost like, don't look at me, right? And now being asked to do these types of platforms and these summits, and I've just accepted that. I've accepted that this is part of what I'm here to do. With others, and collaborate. And that's part of my role to some degree as well. But what I want to ask you, first of all, we have a couple questions from what I call the Angelhood, right?
Let's hear.
So let's get to those first, and then we'll see if we have time to do a little bit of an experience with you before we wrap. So the first comment is Emma says, I definitely travel places when I'm asleep. I often feel overwhelmed. Do you have any advice for feeling like this?
Absolutely, Emma. First, you're going to call on Big Mike, Archangel Michael. If you go to my website, you'll find it. So this is like, you don't even have to buy a product, but bear with me. I have my cards right here. Hopefully he'll play nice. I just want to show you his sigil. And a sigil is a symbol that has power. So I channeled this deck and guidebook in 2 weeks. And it took me years before I said the word channel. So we're talking about owning your power. So his sigil is his sword. And if you look at it, take a screenshot of it so you can practice. It starts at the circle right there, ends at the line right there. Always drawn in threes. So you can photocopy it, put it under your bed. I would charge it with a bit of energy, and it's never asking, because I sound like a whiny little baby. Please help me. It's always coming from that place of power. Michael, thank you for protecting me as I sleep. Michael, thank you for protecting me as I travel at night. You may also talk with Sandalphon, who's the Earth Star chakra, and he can help keep you tethered to earth so you don't go floating out and come back very discombobulated. You can talk to Sandalphon's twin, Metatron, Soul Star Chakra, and they can put you in Metatron's cube. So you actually are now encased in this light vehicle, tethered with Michael and his legions all around you, protecting you as you sleep. So hopefully that helps. If not, reach out to me, find me on Facebook. That's where I tend to be most active, and we can do that. So next.
Beautiful. Next question from Lisa is, can you speak to humility as it relates to people who channel? How does one own that ability without getting caught in a power mindset? That's a very good
question. Such a good one. So I kind of just touched on that, saying it took me years before I would say I channeled this deck and guidebook. Someone, because I used to do a lot of metaphysical shows, which is where Stephanie and I finally physically met. And this person said, "Oh, you channeled it." And I went, it was like, who was I to say that I channeled it? So in answer to your question, it's not that you have to go out and say, I channeled this information. You know, it's like, I wouldn't have to share with you that Stephanie is a beautiful woman. It's obvious, right? So it's obvious when the energy is pure. I mean, there are people out there that channel, and I'd say take it with a huge grain of salt. So really simply pay attention to what is being said. Now, if you're the channel, one, make sure you're obviously calling on Big Mike. It's things I harp on a lot. And making sure the information you're getting, and whether it's channeled writing, channeled speaking, that it is directly from source versus other energies trying to, oh, here's 95% true, and this 5% is complete big fat old lie.
Yeah, I call that the cyanide in the milk.
Right. So it's paying attention to and using your discernment. So back to the question of humility, why is it safe for me to be me? Just because you do fabulous work doesn't mean you have to be a pauper. It doesn't mean you can't toot your horn. I'll come out and say, guess what? I channel the Magdalena. Guess what? This is what I do, but I don't harp on it. It comes up as conversation because it's simply me sharing that information versus me chasing you down like the used car salesman. So you get what I do. So with humility, it's a two-way road kind of. It's that owning your gifts, being comfortable with it, and in that comfortableness will be the humility. You know, Yeshua and the Magdalene, powerhouse couple, right? Probably the original powerhouse couple. Fabulous. Didn't have to go around saying this is what we do, but yet here we are still talking about them over 2,000 years later, channeling them, sharing their messages still. And we're not talking the Bible. We're just talking about the power of how in English is that, how to navigate chaotic times, how to stay in that energy of grace, how to stand, how to persevere, how to be like the tower, one of her symbols.
This is interesting. Just to add to what you're saying is, you know, a lot of times those that are chosen to be vessels have gone through trauma. And what goes hand in hand with that, I'm not saying everybody, but sometimes what goes hand in hand with that is the narcissist who's making up for the insecurity of that being that thinks, who am I and I'm nobody, and because I'm a defect because I wouldn't have been beaten or I wouldn't have been punished if I wasn't. So there's these interesting levels that can come in when we're dealing with people on the spiritual stage who work in this way, that if they haven't integrated those traumas, if they haven't worked them out enough, it doesn't mean they're going to be always perfect, but enough to not get triggered and go to that narcissistic side, right?
Correct.
And that narcissism isn't always the extreme. It just could be because it's a spectrum, but it's that sense of like, I have to talk about all the things that I do that are so wonderful and great. And really that's coming from the insecurity of the inner child that says I'm not enough.
Very, very, very much of the insecurity. And it's not necessarily a traumatic where they were abused or things like that. Something could have happened at the wrong moment that made a very big imprint on that. But you're absolutely right. If someone has to go around and constantly talk about
How
them.
brilliant they are.
Or I just did a blog post about this is who I am not. And I'm not going to go around and share and say this is what a wealthy woman looks like or this is what this, because my definition is going to be different than anybody else here.
Yeah.
So it's not that narcissistic. This is who I am.
Yeah. It's
And
a delicate balance is I think what it comes down to.
exactly. So when you are
Confidence versus mindset, like she's saying, that power mindset, right? But there's
yes,
an ability to have that authority and consciousness and confidence. I call it soul confidence, so that people know, oh, she means business or he means business, right? Like what he's saying is actually true because I can feel that, versus someone's like,
exactly.
maybe it is, and that's never going to be leadership, right? That's going to
Right.
be, I'm just experimenting right now.
Yeah, one of the things I am quite good at, I plant seeds and I give you things to chew on. So that's exactly it. It's not so for the humility, going back to that, it's humbleness with power.
Mm-hmm.
Humbleness with love.
Yeah.
When you do things, when you can stand on that platform, anything you do, whether it's clientele, teaching, speaking, and if you're doing it from that energy of love, it's easy to sit back in your seat and just be the Mona Lisa. You're owning your power.
Yeah.
And it's not that you have to get up and scream and do a bunch of, circus tricks to get the attention of others. And if that's what they're looking for, one, they're not your tribe.
Yeah.
And two, they're at a lower vibration. They're not going to get and understand what you're doing. And so that's where, like, the BU program is all about. That is really, I have one student, actually two. One, she's a student, she became a mentee, and in that time frame, it was very short, condensed, like less than a year, she's now talking angelic light language.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And another one is doing chakra songs, and it is the coolest thing ever to see these women, because it's mostly women in the group, blossom into their own gifts. But they've gone through this entire course and understand the nuances and how these angels chat with them as an individual and what they're here to do angelically to help them, but then how they are now going to release their gift and share their gift.
It's something one of my students and Halo members asked me the other day, if teaching what I teach, right? And I had to say to her, it's like you're compelled to do it. It's like, how do you, because she said, how do you know, right? It's not, there's things I can't teach. There's things that I entrained people to, and they just suddenly pop like popcorn. And there's things that I think really fundamentally it's could be time to integrate for a while. And then suddenly you're like, I feel like I can own this gift. I know this backwards and forwards. This is where I come from, my authority. So that is where I think it's about patience, right? And when you get higher vibrational, we know that can be challenging. So I think anchoring the patience
is a virtue. So I've known about a mystery school that they want me to spearhead, oh gosh, for a number of years. I knew about this card deck, the Magdalene's deck, the second one that came out last year. But it wasn't until I went to France and came back that I then knew it was hers versus just another angel deck. And since Respite, that this twice monthly gathering has started, she says, oh, by the way, you do know we're gearing up for the mystery school now. Cool. And we're going to be addressing, all of these various arts, the art of intuition, the art of self-love. So we may get these snippets, these nuances, right, of what's coming down the road, but have no clue. But like you just said, all of a sudden it just settles in and clicks. You're going, I can do this now.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing. And that's owning your angelic gifts. That's just going with the flow, knowing something's coming, not chasing it. Like me with the dog with the sock, just sitting there going, okay, I'm still being proactive. I'm still doing my work. I continue to improve myself because we're perfectly imperfect. So there's always something we can do better. And I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
I'm still saying yes to this because I can't not do it. Just like you cannot not do your work, Stephanie. You are called to do it. Sometimes keeps you up at night. It's exciting.
Mhm.
It's fun. It's empowering. It's a
And you
blessing.
can't go back. Like people
Mm-mm.
think, well, maybe I'll go back to do. Mm-mm. Like
You
it's like
can't.
once you're in this work, it's not an option to go back. So I'm gonna say, be careful what you wish for, and be careful what you take on. Not
Yeah.
in a like it's be fearful, but just know that this is a lot. I mean, and I share this too. It's to go through the gauntlets and the alchemy and all that is required to get to a place of leadership of light. It's not always easy, that path. I mean, Sandra Bispo
No,
was
no,
on yesterday. She
it's
went through a
certainly,
whole
yeah,
near-death
it's certainly
experience,
not for the, it's certainly not for the faint of heart,
No.
but I will interject and say not everybody's mission is as large as ours. Some are destined to be local and to be, I had we had a client a few weekends ago and she hates the spotlight and she will
Yeah.
never be, but she spread such light
Yeah.
doing her school librarian work.
Mm-hmm. And it's
And
equally
she sends,
important.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it doesn't, so don't, so those that are listening are going, oh, maybe I don't want this after all. It doesn't matter. It's what is in your soul's design. Yeah. Stephanie and I just happen to have really large things we have to do before we drop dead. So
you and Alexandra Wenman, I believe, and I are very similar because we have our product lines. We have our she has decks. I haven't done the decks yet. I haven't done the deck thing yet. I might, but you guys have all these other instruments and tools and things. I have my Celestials line. I know you have
Yep.
your oils and your candles and all the things you do, and so we all have our vibration out there in different ways.
Yeah.
As these multifaceted, like I call it the plate spinning sometimes. And for some, that would drive them crazy to do all that.
Yes.
Like, how do you do all that? And I don't even know. And I can't even say that I can manage everything I do sometimes. So, I do the best I can. But I would just say,
and that is all that's ever been asked of any of us.
Yeah.
It's just boundaries. We're back to boundaries. Say no when it's not in alignment. We had salespeople that convinced me I needed to sell keychains. Okay, guess what? They didn't sell because they weren't in alignment with me. So now my product line is very specific jewelry, a sacred aromatherapy line, the 2 card decks, my books, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I love teaching. I love interacting. So the line will continue to expand, but certainly much more selective. And right now, expanding the BU program, getting ready to add Azriel to the program, and then working more in earnest on the mystery school, because I've started the book, start and stops, but she's gearing up. She goes, okay, this whole move thing, you're settled in now. It's been almost a year. Gotta get to work, lady. So, so the book is starting to get going again.
Good. That's good. Yeah, books. I mean, I know for some it's like they need to read it, and I get that. And I'll get there someday, I'm sure. But we have one last question before I let you go, and if we can do it quick because we're over. But this question is from Juliana. She says, what are your thoughts on empaths respecting boundaries of others? Just because we can read someone's energy doesn't mean that we should. Does it mean that we should?
What are your thoughts on empaths respecting boundaries of others? Just because we can read someone's energy doesn't mean we should.
So, she's picking up other signals from other people that she feels. It's almost like sometimes you don't want to hear that chatter, the angel chatter. All
right, so you can actually turn it off, boundaries. Just say, I don't need to know this person. I love people watching, and I could pick up things in my yoga class, people walking on the boardwalk, just as they walked by, but you don't have to. You can tell Michael you're off duty.
Yeah.
Years ago, Lisa Williams, she's a medium, and at the time her hair was very, very short, and she had it dyed where there was like a white spot, and it was her thing that when her baseball cap was on, she was off duty. The deceased could not come and bug her. I'm guessing I'm hoping she set up a grid in her home so they would stay out, but the hat would come on and off as her clue. Do you have to dye your hair and wear a hat? No, but you can set up very strong boundaries. If you continue to get nudged that this person needs something, then pay attention, because this is why. We have a service on my site, Email the Angels. It's free. I don't read it. We get tons of letters, except this one night, gosh, about 4 years ago. And it was at night. It was like past my witching hour. I was not looking at, and they said, you need to read this note. Really? Can't wait. No, now. Read the note. This person was going to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote to them and talked them back off the ledge, and we struck up a pen pal where they would check in pretty much for a while. It was like almost every day, and then it scaled back and it scaled back. They moved from where they were living, and I finally met them about 2 years after all this happened. Finally met them face to face. Just got word they're buying their first house.
Wow.
So sometimes you get that empathic nudge.
Yeah.
Angels, read that note,
Yeah.
because you're going to help save a life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's strictly the energy. So you may set up some code words. Is this super important? Do I need to know this right this minute? How do you address a total stranger? Simply be nice to them. Sometimes just a smile and looking at them in the eye. I mean, so often, how do you go to the grocery store, any store, and just take your stuff and walk out? You don't even make eye contact with the cashier. You know, sometimes that's all somebody wants. Don't you want to be seen? Of course you do.
Yeah.
So do they. So sometimes it's that simple eye look that energetically says, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be enough to walk them back. Or if you can see something about them that you can genuinely compliment. Hey, I like that hair. We went to a concert recently, and there's this woman sitting by herself. And she was a little bit, she was older than me. And I looked at her and said, I love everything about your outfit. You are a stunning woman. And she went, wow, thank you. I said, you're welcome. Turned around, and my husband's like, it's like he's just laughing at, because this is just something I find something to be said to pretty much anybody.
In service and kindness,
it is that being of service. So hopefully that answers us. I wasn't 100%
sure
how that question was written, but hopefully that answer helps.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been amazing, and I know, being angel chatterers that we are, we could chat forever, but we have to go, because I have to make room for the next speaker. But but I love you, and I thank you.
I love you so much.
And everybody, just make sure you go to angelchatter.com. I'm typing it in for everybody once more.
And the other one is just Google Angel. It got me tongue tied now. Angel Chatter Academy. Just Google it, and you will then be directed to the free Michael class, and you can see some of the other online courses that I do offer. Find me on Facebook. You are all lovingly welcome to join our Angel Chatter group on Facebook. It's closed, which means we keep it sacred. So no politics, etc.
Committed containers are definitely something angels are about. I know that's why I have the angel hood, and I know you have your spaces, and we all have our little containers, to hold these halos for people and be in harmonic alignment with our energy, right? That's those boundaries again. So, and Juliana, just a quick note on that too, just to say, you can always just say halo buffer. You don't want to get all the noise. It's a real simple directive I give too. So just use what works for you, and we all have our tips. So I love yours. I love you. Thank you,
love you, darling,
for being here. And we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do something. Okay.
Honey.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. Next up is Alexandria in the Zone, and he'll be here at 2:30 p.m. Pacific.